Ashley Hodge here alongside senior writer Will Vandervoort for the Clemson Insider's Monday Blitz. And Clemson is coming off a 34-10 win against South Carolina Gamecocks, just like your Pittsburgh Steelers.
There you go.
Coming off of a win. You're
That's
welcome.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
giving you a little shout out. But a lot of talk about this
Did that for your
Clemson.
dad, by the way. I know you.
Yeah, just a little bit. So if you're watching, Dad,
It's not
you're
for me,
welcome.
it's for you. Just for you. Go ahead.
But a lot of talk about this game against Clemson in South Carolina, not Pittsburgh, was about what was being thrown onto the field pregame, and you were there. So talk a little bit about that environment.
Yeah, obviously the environment at Carolina is always, I say, it's one of the best in the SEC, and their crowd does a good job getting into it. It's loud, it's noisy, first of all, it's not the first time Clemson's had to deal with students throwing bottles at them, but this one was a little bit more than usual, and I just thought it was, it just was unacceptable behavior. They were taunting the Clemson players. When they, a lot of the fans don't see it on TV because they only see after the players are in uniform. But, the team gets there a few hours early. If you've never been to a college football game or an NFL game, they get there several hours early and they get out there and start warming up on the field. And the students were already in their seats there, and they're already taunting Clemson. They're saying vulgar language to them, languages that their mothers would not be proud about, and they're throwing bottles at them and stuff like that already. And this is when they're not wearing any helmets or anything. This is going on. And so the Clemson players ignored it, didn't do anything. They had their headphones on and just ignored it. And then when they came out for pregame warm-ups, obviously wearing the uniforms and all, then it got even worse. And the Carolina players would go down to the hedges as close as they could, and there's security right there. And they would spit on them, and they would throw water bottles at them, and nobody at Carolina would do anything. They just allowed it to happen. And the guys saw it sitting right there, just saw it. Saw the kid throwing the water bottle on him and spitting at him. I mean, and the Clemson players just ignored it. So when Clemson did their victory walk that they always do when they get arm in arm at the end of the game, just before, right near the end of pregame, and they walk down and they go from the 50-yard line all the way to the goal line, and then they break off to do their individual workouts. They normally always kind of do a little like this, kind of hand motion, but not too much. But there was a couple of Clemson players that they were letting the Carolina students know they didn't care what they were doing, that they didn't bother them, and they went over there and kind of just like did their thing. And so it was, a lot of people want to say, oh, that Clemson started it because all they saw was what ESPN showed. But that wasn't the case. Clemson was just doing their normal thing, and Clemson wasn't trying to do anything. The Carolina students started it way before that happened, and you get 18, 22-year-olds together. Sometimes they don't make good decisions, but if I know a lot of the Carolina alums that I know are disappointed with the way the Carolina student section acted in this game. Actually, I had one person tell me it was a complete embarrassment, and they were embarrassed to be a South Carolina grad because of it. So, it's a shame of that, and I hope people see that are in those positions, they can do something about it, because it was bad. It was the worst I've seen it down there, and it was uncalled for. It was unacceptable behavior.
Well, and Coach Sweeney and Hunter Renfro both pointed out to you that that's not a direct reflection of everyone in the South Carolina student section,
not.
but it does go far enough to get media attention, have us discuss about it. So obviously not the sportsman like we'd expect from fans or players in general. But one player that this rivalry probably means the most to is Hunter Renfro.
Absolutely.
He had his best game of the season with 2 touchdowns. And what did he have to say about this rivalry and how great it was to come out and win?
Well, he was excited because he said he's moved to 4-0 against them because he counts his redshirt freshman year too. He said if they would have lost it, he wouldn't have counted it. But he said since they won, he counted it. So he said he's looking forward to coming back next year and going 5-0 against them. And the reason he's saying, and he's going to be throwing out the one for the thumb, because when he was coming through high school, I guess it had been maybe beginning of end of middle school to high school or whatever. That's when the Carolina had their streak, and so he said he was tired of it. Where he grew up, they always would just like fear the thumb and stuff like that, and he said he got tired of hearing it. And so, so now he's like, I'm undefeated against them, and I look forward to it. And he kind of lets everybody know. And he was the other night after the game, he was also very outspoken about the whole never again thing and how that kind of fired him up and motivated him. And, he said, I was just tired of hearing about all of it. And that, so he went out there and showed it. And the thing was, he came out mad. To me, it looked like he came out mad on that 61-yard touchdown. I mean, I had never seen Hunter Renfro do. I mean, he's made some great plays, but that is the single greatest play I think I've ever seen him make. I mean, it was just unbelievable. It's like he had, I don't know, like he was Deion Sanders speed or something. I was like, that's Hunter Renfrow, it was a great play for him, and I know he was ecstatic because it came against South Carolina that he did it. So maybe it was the orange britches, because he always says he has his best game when he wears those orange pants. So maybe that was it. I don't know. I think a lot of it had to do with the fact he just hates South Carolina. He hates that logo. He hates everything about it and what it stands for, and so he likes to play his best games when he plays the Gamecocks.
And putting the South Carolina game aside, Clemson will be playing Miami in the ACC Championship this Saturday, and Miami did just lose to Pittsburgh 24-10 or 24-14. I apologize, but that's going to fuel them for this game, just like it did for Clemson last season. Miami's known for the turnover chains and their defense. So what's going to be the deciding factor for this game on Saturday?
Well, it's obviously going to be taking care of the football for Clemson. There's no doubt about that, because Miami does feast off turnovers, just like South Carolina was that way going into that game. South Carolina was they're number one in the SEC in creating turnovers. Miami's number one in the country in creating turnovers for 29, and they really play off that turnover chain. But anybody saw the Pittsburgh game, Pittsburgh did a good job of not letting that get to them. Even though they turned the ball over 2 times, their defense came right back out, got 3 and outs. Miami punted the ball away. It had no momentum at all. And that's huge, and that's what's going to be for Clemson, because I don't know if they're going to go a whole game without turning it over. But when they do, and Clemson's defense has done a good job all year long after somebody's gotten a turnover, not getting up any points. We'll see if that holds true in this game. But we talked to Austin Bryant about it, and Dexter Lawrence, and I asked Dexter, I said, so what does Coach Venables do if you guys create a turnover? Y'all got any props or anything? He says he gives us a high five, and that's it. But Dexter also admitted that, I kind of asked him, I said, but you guys kind of feed off 3 and outs more. I mean, and he says, oh, yeah, we love 3 and outs, and that's kind of our thing. We just want to get as many 3 and outs as possible. And they have like a chart where, a goal each week where Brent Venables wants 3 and outs. And so they really feast off of that. So as Miami feasts off turnovers and creating turnovers, to Clemson, a 3 and out is like a turnover. And it can be, especially when you look at the South Carolina game. It was field position there for a while, and they were getting 3 and outs, and the offense was getting the ball back in good field position. Eventually, what happened? The offense goes down and scores a touchdown. So it's just like a turnover. And so, so a lot of people get excited about turnovers and all, but, if Clemson takes care of the football, which I think they will, I don't think the turnover chain is going to matter.
We'll keep up with the Clemson Insider the rest of the week as Clemson prepares for Miami on Saturday.